why didn't you tell us that that guy selling belts could have been an undercover cop? I could be in jail. The belt I am wearing at this moment is a $5 belt I bought from that same guy. Yeah. Huh? Oh. Anyway, we did not feel at all threatened while we were in Mexico. No problems with safety. The advantage, of course, was that we had a native Mexican with us who knew where to go and where not to go. And even though we were in two different kinds of communities, the first week we were in, I would say, middle to upper middle class community. The second week, a much poorer area of Mexico City. We did not feel threatened. And a lot of the credit for that goes to Donor, who made sure that we were safe. The first week, we of course flew from Grand Rapids, most of us I think, into Dallas, Fort Worth, including Reverend Klein, who came from Spokane, and then into Mexico City in the van. We're headed now out of the airport. We had our first stop at John Calvin Seminary, John Calvin University, but I think it's better to refer to it as John Calvin Seminary. This is the library, a very small library compared to ours. The man to my right is Professor Custodio. He's the president of the seminary, one of 4 faculty members. As the president of the seminary, he is given an apartment to live in with his family and 3 teenage children, an apartment that by our standards is very modest. A couple of rooms in an upper story of one of the dormitory buildings at the seminary, so very modest accommodations. And to my left are 2 young men. I saw Brad here. Brad, where are you? It's over here somewhere. Raise your hand. There's Brad. And Drew right by him. Way to go. You got forward, right, Drew? Left it in your mailbox? Yep, good. We found in South Korea 2 summers ago, Korea this summer, the great value of having a delegation that did not only consist of ministers, professors, but young people in Korea as well as in Mexico. They not only helped us, and these 2 young men had outstanding abilities as far as technology was concerned, were a great asset to us, both of them. But the fact that the young people in the churches in which we preach, with the groups with which we met, gravitated to our young people, and it was a huge benefit for us to have them along. We also had, going into Korea, an elder, and I think that there's huge advantages to that too. I've become convinced that every delegation ought to have ministers, professors, elders, and young people. And I think that that representation goes a long way to giving a diverse experience to them of what the Protestant Reformed churches are like. And of course, we had these 2 fine young ladies helping us, providing all our meals, doing our cooking and baking and cleaning. The one on the left as we face the screen is, of course, Susanna, Donor's wife, dear wife right there. And to her right is her older sister Ruth, unmarried, Christian school teacher, I think 3rd and 4th grades on the Zuni Indian Reservation, CRC mission. A very, very fine young lady. As I said, I'll repeat that, unmarried. But came to all our meetings, was very enthusiastic about everything that we had to say and in agreement with everything as well. John Calvin Seminary, not a big sign out front. They do that because they don't want to invite antagonism. Although it is behind a gated, you can see that, behind a gated sort of complex, almost everybody is. It's still a very nice neighborhood. We had no fear of, for our safety. We walked, in fact, one night, Reverend Klein and I took a walk at midnight down the sidewalk, down the street for several blocks. There are 2, okay, there's where we are, right here. Reverend Marcus grew up, born to missionary parents, CRC missionary parents, 2 blocks from where we were at John Calvin Seminary. 2 blocks away, basically, is the house in which he grew up as a child and young person. There's the entrance to the seminary, right behind those closed gates. A nice entrance into the main part of the seminary. The sign there you can obviously interpret, and you see the beautiful symbol there that represents John Calvin, the heart in the hand, with the saying in Latin, "I offer to God my heart." Professor Custodio and his wife, we are hoping, if they can get all their the legal things, the passports and so forth in order, that they will be able to come up for the seminary conference on the Synod of Dort in April of this year. Is very excited at the invitation to come and to take in our conference. A very quiet, very knowledgeable man, a man who knows the Reformed faith. Next to Donor, here we have our 2 translators, Donor and Mr. Vasquez Samuel, who is a member of our congregation in Redlands, flew down to be our 2nd translator. And our 3rd translator is on Donor's lap right now. Right, Ian? You translate for me several times. And I'd be looking around, informal conversations with people, not catching something. Samuel's over there in a group, Donor's over there in a group. I don't see anybody, but then I spot that little short guy named Ian. I say, "Ian, come here, I need you a minute." And he would look up, go back and forth in Spanish, turn around, look up at me, didn't have to look up as high probably, and gave me a complete translation. It was wonderful to have Ian. These are 2 of the professors at the university, John Calvin Seminary University, along with Professor Custodio. I want to not butcher their names. So, Donor, who's that? Miguel Velasquez. Not bad, huh? I impressed myself. What? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You better say that. Crisostomo Virgilio. Okay. Here's the courtyard inside the seminary complex. It's not very big. There are 2 dormitories, and in between them, this courtyard. The dormitories are in the upper level. The lower level, you have the library in the one and classrooms in the other. We had a breakfast here together, and every morning we invited the custodials to have breakfast with us. It was a wonderful time. The beginning of one of our first public meetings, the people coming to the meeting and being greeted by Professor Custodio. There's that courtyard again. There is where Reverend Klein and I slept. It's a good thing I had my noisemaker along and my earplugs. Reverend Klein is a notorious snorer. Up here is where the married, where some of the students at least don't know about marriage. I don't think any married students, they have to get their own accommodations, don't they? The dormitories are only for single students. They have about 10 students right now, by the way. So Suzanne and Donor were up here, and here's that middle courtyard. Classrooms, the first room is the main large classroom assembly hall. Get a taste of their classrooms. This is that assembly hall. We had 2 conferences here. One conference with some of the leaders of the denomination, including the professors in the seminary, and then another conference that was an open conference on the doctrine of the covenant. 6 speeches to which all of the members of the churches in the area were invited. Remember that this is the smaller denomination. This is the Independent Presbyterian Church. And after the conferences at night, we had our supper meal. All together again, and with the custodials and their children. A wonderful time of fellowship, some feedback and analysis of the evening speech and questions and so forth. Some of the basic foods that we ate. No, this is a delicacy in my judgment. There's not much food that I don't like, but this is outstanding. This is street food. The street food was amazing. If you like Mexican food, the place to eat it is not Taco Bell. This is the place. You go to Mexico City and you walk the streets. There are all kinds of little shops in front of homes and so forth. This is really a ham that is the leg of a pig. It is on a rotisserie, and it is turning slowly. What you can't see right on the edge of the screen is a propane flame. There's a flame, not very wide, it's up against that leg of that pig, and it's constantly browning. What? So what? I sat behind him for many years and couldn't see a thing. We were in the same class at school. So. Anyway, that thing's turning and they're constantly shaving off the brown meat, and it's fabulous. They could do it very quickly. It's an art. And he wanted me to try it, and I didn't do so well. Not as quickly and as cleanly as he did and others like him. Does that look good or what? Yeah. The conferences that we had at John Calvin, first was an introduction to the PRC, and this was with the faculty primarily, a few of, I guess, prominent elders, you could call them, in the denomination. And then that second conference, over 3 nights, on the doctrine of the covenant. Very good attendance, book table up front. The organization, you can just see, there's a C there that's covered up. What do they call it? FIDEC? Okay, it's kind of like the RFPA. Independent from the denomination itself, but loosely and closely connected. But a little bit broader than the RFPA because they do sponsor teaching workshops, a lot of instructional classes throughout Mexico City and other parts. So some of the literature on their table, we took some literature, some of the few pieces of literature that we have translated into Spanish. They were gone within 20 minutes. Everything we had was gone in 20 minutes. So we need to do more, provide them with more, take more down there. But there is a great need to have our materials translated into Spanish. Everything had to be translated, although most can understand us. The younger people, of course, the older generation, not so much. So everything had to be translated, and Samuel and Donor did outstanding jobs translating, I think. They did. It's a wearying job. It was so good to have them. We really could have used one more translator just to keep up. But everything has to be shortened. Speeches have to be about half of what you would normally make, just because it doubles the time. One of the meetings isn't underway yet. This is an instructional class, I think, maybe. But every one of the professors in the seminary also is a pastor, leads a congregation. It's partly out of necessity because of their need for ministers. It's partly because they need the money. The salaries are not very high. So they all pastor a congregation. This congregation, by this professor, meets in that fellowship hall of the seminary. That's where I preached that first Sunday. This is the conference on the doctrine of the covenant. Very well attended. In fact, the last day, these windows on the side, and then that courtyard is beyond them, are removable. They took them out, and chairs were set up all outside in that courtyard. Such a good turnout. This was the first conference. The slides are a bit out of order here. This was the first conference that we had with the professors and a couple of the leaders within the denomination. Is that the man who was involved in that feedback? Yes. Yeah, okay. That man would be the head of their RFPA. Very active, very interested interested in us, enthusiastic for what he learned of us. There's the conference getting underway. I like that. You can tell that there's a question coming. The punctuation, other than periods in Spanish, comes at the beginning of the sentence as well as at the end. At the beginning, it's upside down, but you know right from the get-go that you're dealing with a question. I like that. There's a group picture of a number of us. I think this was after the conference. At least Reverend Reese is in town, and he wasn't in town until the very last day of this conference of the first week. So I would say it has to be Friday. I preached there in the seminary. Reverend Klein took about a 2.5-hour, 3-hour drive, which direction again? North, out of town, to a preaching station. They have about 30 congregations, but they have about that many preaching stations too. Small groups of people that are ministered to only once a month. One of the professors goes to this group once a month. Reverend Klein went to minister to them, and there are actually 2 groups that he ministered to. One on the way back, but had a wonderful time with these country people who live quite a ways outside of Mexico City, kind of on a hilltop. There is their picturesque church building, the meal. This, I think, was the second group that he ministered to on the way back in the late afternoon, and that is their church building. The worship services in this denomination are very much like ours. Worship is very solemn, very reverential. You have the preaching of the Word as the center of the worship service. Although they do sing not all psalms, they do sing the psalms. Their songbook is a Psalter hymnal in the Christian Reformed tradition. They were founded by the Christian Reformed Church, although they've long parted ways with the CRC. But they have a kind of Spanish Psalter hymnal that includes both psalms and hymns. The singing there is quite amazing. They sing with gusto, and the singing, very often a cappella, is very, very good singing. Out in the country, a little bit more primitive condition, that's the oven, out of which everything was cooked for that evening meal. All avocado orchards, and that is the end of the slideshow, the first part. All avocado orchards, Reverend Klein said it was mountain after mountain, hill after hill, covered with avocado trees and just hanging with fruit to the ground. That was week number 1. How'd I do?